You read the title correctly. I made the soundtrack for the upcoming F1 movie. Kinda. You see, while I didn't work on the official F1 movie, I have been scouring the trailers, the behind the scenes content, and the promotions for it. So today I'm gonna analyze this footage. I'm gonna explain what I think is bound to be the plot of the movie, and most importantly, I'm gonna come up with a banging soundtrack that will probably not share a single song with the official F1 movie. But for those of you out there who doubt my credentials to accomplish such a feat, I'd like to let you know that I took the honors version of Intro to Film Studies. And I own that guitar. So with that out of the way, I think a quick rundown of the characters is in order. First, we have Ruben, the owner of Apex GP, an underdog F1 team that's bound to be dropped by the end of the season if they don't attain their first win. Now, the two drivers for Apex GP are Sonny Hayes and Joshua Pierce. The former being a rugged old-timer who seems to have missed his shot and will likely soon retire. The latter being a young rookie looking to get his big break into F1 this season. And the final character important to the plot of this movie is Nikita Mazepin, who clearly is Sonny Hayes' idol on the track. Now, to explain my guess for the plot of the movie, I'm going to be using this graph. I'm going to be going over Act 1, 2, and 3 and explaining certain moments and what song I think would fit them perfectly. Now, in my professional opinion, and definitely not what is stated in the first 3 seconds of the trailer, this movie's gonna start out with Sonny Hayes down on his luck, living out of his van and racing for whatever team will still accept him.
Some people look at Sonny Hayes, they see a guy who lives in a van, the best that never was.
In his early 20s, he was an F1 prodigy, but time has progressed and he now finds himself stuck in a downward spiral. Now, from what I've seen in the trailers, this movie seems to start in January. I say that because when Hayes is asked about the last race he won, he says,
"When was the last time you won a race?" "Sunday, Daytona."
And in the intro clip, we see Hayes driving what looks to be a Porsche GTD Pro car, racing in something like the 24 hours of Daytona. This race occurs somewhere between January 25th and 30th each year, and so it would fit perfectly into the timeline of this movie. Based on this, the initial 10 minutes of the movie will feature Hayes racing at Daytona, where the first song of our soundtrack, Elephant by Tame Impala, appears. Although fallen from glory, Hayes still brings a young, cocky, and go-it-alone attitude to every race. But while this mentality of constantly showing off and making no friends is what got him so far in racing, it's also what took him back down. So, Elephant subconsciously also serves to show the audience the cracks in Hayes' self-perception that ruined his blossoming career. After starting the race in the middle of the pack, Hayes manages some really impressive overtakes and wins the race. Woo, yeah, woo! However, after this routine victory, he goes back to his van and wastes the next few hours gambling the money that he just won. That is, before he hears a knock on the van door. Hayes opens the door to see Ruben, who is in need to fill the second seat of his failing Formula 1 team. This is when Ruben tells Hayes to meet him next Saturday at the local circuit to try out for the team, which is the inciting incident. For the next few days, Hayes debates whether it's a good idea to restart his F1 career. And so we now enter the second thought. As the long nights pass, the second song on our soundtrack, Earn by Childish Gambino, plays softly in the background. This slow, almost psychedelic track draws out Hayes' meditative state as he decides what to do with his future. Ultimately, Hayes shows up to the track on Saturday, and as he sentimentally gets back into the cockpit of an F1 car, Square One by Red Veil warmly rises through the speakers. He's back in the game, and you can feel the hope pulsing through his veins as he races around the circuit. While Red Veil talks about his hopes when he was younger, Hayes reminisces on his first time in F1. And matching Red Veil's pledge to go back to square one and start over, Hayes realizes he's ready to do whatever it takes to get back into this sport. Hayes manages to put up a time that knocks Ruben out of his chair, and he is officially offered the second seat. He promptly accepts, and it's now time to meet the team behind Apex GP. Hayes walks through the garage into a room full of engineers, and his counterpart, Joshua Pierce. To announce his entrance, the dramatic orchestral backing of Role Model by Brent Faiyaz begins. This is the climax of Act 1. Hayes instantly sets up the dynamic of the team by aura farming and looking down at Pierce. He is the role model of this team, and he's here to be the #1 driver. Now, with the end of role model and Hayes feeling boisterous, it's time to get in to some real racing. Act 2 commences with the start of preseason testing. This is the weekend at the end of February where Apex gets to test the upgrades to their car and see if they're working before the first race. A song that matches this feeling of potential before the new season is Igor's Theme by Tyler, the Creator. I know I talk about this song any chance I can get, but the drawn-out synth at the beginning really makes it feel like a fresh start. The hard-hitting drums throughout the beat are perfect for fast cuts and a montage. And the "right around town, they gon' feel this one" states perfectly what's gonna happen this F1 season. Before they know it, Apex is preparing for the first race in Melbourne, where they are confident they can put up a fight. However, after exiting qualifying in Q1, which is not good, Hayes and Pierce know that they have their work cut out for them. Cutting to an hour before the race, the reassuring voice of Doechii on Nissan Altima is introduced. This song makes you feel the racers' determination as they get a good jump off the line and gain a few positions. Pierce and Hayes fight their way through the 58 laps of the Grand Prix, but unfortunately, they end the Australian Grand Prix in 19th and 20th, a long way from what they expected to get. This is obstacle 1 of the ascending action. They're gonna have to put in the work if they want to win, and as with any good movie from the 2000s, we enter a montage to the song Work by Jid. As races pass by, the audience sees Hayes and Pierce strain themselves to the limit to maximize their performance. And so they start moving up from back markers to the midfield. I mean, nothing spectacular, but it shows that something is working. As the montage fades, they've now made it to early July and it's time for Silverstone. Hayes and Pierce wrestle their way into Q3, which is good, and they get P8 and P9 respectively. As the race commences the next day, the devious strings of Pride is the Devil by J. Cole and Lil Baby weigh on the drivers. Pierce, desperate to prove his worth over Hayes, is willing to do anything to get past the veteran. But for the first 40 laps of the race, it seems that he can't do anything. However, at one of the last corners of the circuit, Pierce hits DRS, which basically allows you to go faster, and he enters a wheel-to-wheel turn with Hayes. Hayes does see him coming, but in the heat of the moment, their wheels touch and they spin out into the barriers. Now, I would like to point out, how does this turn into that? Hollywood's the answer. Despite that, we are now at the midpoint of Act 2. Both drivers are understandably shaken up by the events at Silverstone and fall back to mediocre race results. As the audience watches them flounder in the midfield, Running Out of Time by Lil Yachty starts. They're clearly running out of time. See what I did there? To get their first win, and it's weighing on the team heavily. They're trying to stop their backslide, and luckily, I feel like the instrumental of this song brings hope. Of course, though, during this time, since it's a Hollywood film, Hayes has a fling with his race engineer, Kate. So, I'll throw Witchy by Kaytranada and Childish Gambino on those scenes and just call it a day. But as much as this feels like a "oh, there has to be romance because this is a mainstream movie," I feel like this also serves to the plot. This is a turning point where Hayes realizes he can't keep living life alone, off and on the track. Naturally, none of this translates to his relationship with Pierce, but it's under his skin now. It's in his subconscious. As the F1 summer break ends and racing returns, the rivalry between Pierce and Hayes reignites, driving the movie to its climax. In the heat of an especially hot Monza Grand Prix, Hayes qualifies a couple places above Pierce. However, due to a bad pit strategy, Pierce is right on his tail in the middle of the race. Pierce finds a way to get beside the now mad and disoriented Hayes, who decides to slam right into the side of him. This sends Pierce flying off the circuit and tumbling through the air. And with everything seeming to blow completely out of proportion in the trailer, I have no doubt that he does at least 12 spins before he hits the ground and his car is engulfed in flames. But That aside, this is when Lust by Kendrick Lamar looms over the racetrack. Hayes also spins out and rushes out of his car just to see Pierce's car on fire. He realizes that his lust for victory has completely consumed him. As regret washes over his face, he does everything he can to get to Pierce. The marshals get to the car and quickly remove Pierce, but Hayes just can't help but feel disdain towards himself. After the race ends, Hayes goes on a drive around the city, listening to Solo by Frank Ocean. He reflects more on the setbacks of being solo in his life, both on the track and off. He acknowledges the hurt that he's caused over his career and realizes that if he doesn't start working with his teammate, he will inevitably go down this regrettable path. Here, the movie cuts to Pierce, laying in a hospital bed, unable to move. His family surrounds him as he struggles, and Heart to Heart by Mac DeMarco starts playing, a sad song that matches the energy of the room. However, Pierce eventually is able to get out of the bed, and Heart to Heart mumbles out as we enter a training montage. Pierce grapples to regain his strength as Back in My Bag by Rhapsody rises above the former somber song. With this, Pierce himself starts to rise. He starts to get stronger, driving faster, and similarly to Hayes, realizes that he needs to work with his teammate in order to win. Hayes and Pierce find themselves at the final race in Abu Dhabi. Energy is high, and you can see that they've patched this rift that's plagued the team this entire season. Unfortunately, during quali, Hayes has a power unit failure and exits in Q1. However, Pierce in his reformed state makes it to Q3, and on his last flying lap, he manages to get provisional pole, aka tomorrow he's gonna start in first if no one gets a better time than him. This would be Apex's first ever pole position if... Okay, Max Verstappen just passed the line with a time 100th quicker than them. This is just like Lando Norris in the Monaco Grand Prix. I cannot... Now this defeating moment sparks the most obvious song on this soundtrack. No Pole by Don Toliver. I think we can all guess why. And that's even more reason for its iconic placement in this movie. The film cuts to the following night in the garage where Pierce is walking up to Hayes, who, with no hope in the race, says to him,
JP, go win this thing!
And we're off to the race. As Pierce slips into his car, Family Ties by Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar starts bumping the speakers. With a new look in his eye, Pierce spends the next 48 laps throwing whatever he can at Max, but just isn't able to pass. Lunges to the inside, dives to the outside, Max sees everything. That is, until the last pit stop when Red Bull stupidly puts Max on hards, like in the Spanish Grand Prix, and Pierce with softs is able to catch him off guard and passes him. After defending his position against Mad Max for 6 laps, Pierce wins the race! Woo! This finally secured first victory for Apex saves them from being dropped from the grid. It's like a Hollywood miracle! Woo! Pierce parks his car and beelines it to his team as It Was a Good Day by Ice Cube starts playing. A montage of the podium and all the excited interviews with Pierce scroll across the screen. This is the wrap-up of the film, and Apex has done the impossible. After sitting in this surreal moment for a bit longer, we transition to a scene of Hayes telling Pierce how proud of him he is. As with any good racing movie ending, they get up off of the couch and pull a Fast and the Furious 6 drive-away exit. As their roads diverge, Hayes yells out a "See you next year, partner," and The Chain by Fleetwood Mac floods the theater. I know this is like a cop-out because it was in the trailer for the F1 movie, but they really did cook with their placement of this track. I mean, the lyrical matter of The Chain goes into the cracks in the relationships between the band, but the fact that they are not gonna break the chain, that they will keep working together as partners to make sure the band lives on. And with that, we make it here, the end of the movie. These are the 18 songs that I think would make the best F1 soundtrack. Now, please, in the comments below, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What songs would you like to see on the F1 soundtrack? Thank you guys so much for sticking to the end. I mean, it means the absolute world to me. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It's the best way to support me, and it would absolutely make my day. And also, if you want to talk to like-minded people, consider joining the Discord. Thanks again for watching, and I will hopefully see you guys in 2 weeks, because these videos take way too long to make.